All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for investing your time with us this afternoon. This is a webinar. It's our second webinar series here at Hennessey Digital. This one is called 1 Hour of Google My Business Mastery. And I'm really excited about this because this is a topic that continues to come up just because Google is constantly changing the rules with Google. It used to be called Google Local, and it got switched to Google My Business, and so they're constantly kind of changing things and they're adding things, and so it's a moving target. And so I'm excited to have two of my fellow colleagues on this call. I'm going to introduce them here in a second. It's Whit and Ian, but I'll give them a more formal introduction here in just a second. Right now, we've got a lot of people registered for this webinar, and so I'm just giving everybody just a couple minutes to get signed on, and then we're going to get started here. You guys pumped?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. This is really a fun topic, truly, because if you get Google Local right, it equates to revenue, and so it's super important. And there's so many variables that are considered with ranking in the maps that we obviously won't be able to cover all of them within an hour, but we are going to cover a lot of the more important variables that you all should be looking at, or if you're one of our clients, these are the things that we do for you. So all right, so let's get into the introductions here while people are still jumping on. And if you are jumping on now, yes, we are recording this. We record all of our webinars. If you missed our last webinar, we were talking about analytics and conversion rate optimization. You can find that on the Hennessey Digital YouTube page. That was a really good one where we got into some of the deep conversation about what you should be looking at in analytics and how to measure your traffic. This webinar is really more about like driving more traffic to your website with Google My Business. So let's get started. So I've got our director of local SEO, who's based out of Dallas, Texas, has been immersed in Google Local or Google My Business for over a decade, and his name is Whit Kinzer. So thank you, Whit, for being here, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And then to his right, at least is how I'm looking at it, a Los Angeles native, an amazing and phenomenal DJ, right? We all have that DJ experience. That was my old background. But he came in and he's been working with us over 2 years, and he just fully became a vigorous student in local. He and I have been to conferences together. We went to Local U when it was out here in Santa Monica. And I think Jason Brown might even be on this webinar, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that he might have been attending, but he was one of the speakers there and another guru in Google Local. But completely took apart Google Local and put it back together, and it's really impressive. And so we'll be going over this webinar. Oh, look, Jason Brown is here. Hello, my friend. See, I'm giving you little props. He's here as our fact finder, right? He's going to fact check us on some of this stuff. So thank you, Jason, for being on this webinar, my friend. So again, if you guys have questions, please send them our way, right? There's a chat feature here. Again, if you guys got questions at all, please send them over. If I feel that these questions are suited at a particular point in the session, we will address them. If I feel that the question is more general in nature, we will kind of hold those to the end of the webinar, and we'll cover a lot of those questions. And I'm sure there will be questions. So having said that, why don't you take us away, Ian? Let's open up the presentation, my friend.
All right, let's get started. Okay. All right, so 1 hour to Google My Business Mastery. today we're just going to go over kind of a general overview of the importance of Google My Business, a lot of the main features that it offers, and then ways that you can utilize Google My Business to help your business grow. So here's a table of contents where we're going to cover what is Google My Business, why is it important, how to best utilize it, and then at the end we'll give you 5 tips to help improve your visibility on Google My Business, and then as Jason mentioned, we'll take some questions at the end. So to get started, what is Google My Business? Google My Business is a free tool that allows you to promote your business on Google Search and Maps and to increase your local visibility. So with the Google My Business, you can see and connect with your customers, post updates about your business, and update information about your business. And you can also see how customers are interacting with your business on Google. Officially known as a business profile, which is an example of what you can see on the left of the screen there. It's a powerful listing that is a dynamic snapshot of your business that highlights your best features and enables potential customers to quickly find, learn about, and engage with you. And the best part about it, as I said, is it's a completely free tool that anybody can use. So where does your Google My Business listing appear? There are 2 main ways that it primarily will show up in SERPs, which is the search engine results page. It'll either be in a map pack listing or a business profile. The map pack listing is what you see on the left, the Milwaukee personal injury lawyer example. And those will primarily come up when you add a geo modifier to a search or you do a near me search. It'll typically serve up these map pack listings. And then on the right is the example of the business profile listing. And those will typically come up in searches when you search for a business by name. So the example I have here is a famous hot dog restaurant here in Los Angeles, Pink's Hot Dog.
And the line is about 2 hours long whenever you do that. Yeah.
Jason is correct. And so, yeah, as I said, these are the 2 main ways that your GMB listing will appear in search engine results. So why is Google My Business important? One of the main reasons why Google My Business is important is that it is the ultimate citation. Creating a Google My Business profile allows you to add your business's local information directly into Google's entity database and ecosystem. So you're going straight to the source, in a sense, when you upload information about your business to Google My Business. You're giving them direct access to all the information about your business that you want to show up in the search engine results. Another reason why Google My Business is so important is because first impressions matter. And nearly 45% of searches are local or have some form of local intent. As of today, that might even be a little bit higher. And to add to that, over 60% of mobile searches from like a cell phone, for example, are 0-click searches, with a significant portion of those coming from Google My Business. Now, when I say a 0-click search, what I mean by that is when a user searches for something and they get the information they need without ever having to click a link through to a website. So typical examples for 0-click searches will be in a featured snippet. If you've ever seen the little box at the top of the search engine results, when you Google, when you want like a definition for something or you look up a recipe, those are featured snippets. But in terms of a local business, for example, if somebody wants to find out your phone number or what time you close today, if you have an optimized Google My Business profile, they'll be able to see that right on the results page. They won't even have to click through to your website. So, like I said, the first impression is really important. And if you want to be able to relay this information to the customer as easy as possible. And then the last, sorry, go ahead.
One of the things I was just going to jump in too, Ian, is, so a long time ago, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been like Johnson & Johnson, right? So they came out with this whole philosophy called the moment of truth, right? Where somebody's like in aisle number 7 at Walmart and they're looking at the shelf and it's, they're about to make a decision and you got the moment of truth. Google kind of coined a phrase called the 0 moment of truth, right? Where you're getting into the the actual psyche of the consumer even before you're about to engage with them. And so, the reviews, your listings, all of this stuff is now factoring into now what is called the 0 moment of truth. And I'd recommend that you guys go out and there's some videos and stuff on that.
Yeah, one other thing I would like to add to this too, as far as importance, is one thing you will notice if you make a local search on your mobile phone, you'll notice the map rankings usually show up at the top of the searches there. So with mobile being so important, being in that map pack is going to give you substantial visibility rather than if you were not there.
Definitely. Thanks, Whit. Yep. And then the last point that I wanted to make is it can help you understand and improve your reach. It can give you useful insights to show you how people are finding your business, where they're coming from, and this information can be used to inform your local strategy and maybe highlight areas that you're getting a lot of interest. You can double down on your content efforts, for example, and go after some of those areas of interest more aggressively. Other things that the insights can show you are, if people are primarily finding your business on maps or search, and another thing is like direction requests. You can see what zip codes people are coming from to get to your business. All of those things can help you inform your local strategy. So having a Google My Business profile can give you access to that information as well to, again, help improve your local. So one of the biggest pros for having a Google My Business listing is that it allows you to improve your local search visibility. It allows you to add vital information related to your business to let current customers and potential customers know who you are and what you do, so you can be found by people that are looking for businesses like yours. So the only way you're going to show up in local and location-based searches is to have a local presence in Google's database, which is why, again, creating a Google My Business listing is so important. Some of the main factors that go into determining how Google decides what to show for location-based searches, which I'll discuss in more detail in the next slide, but things like your physical location, proximity is very important, especially when you're doing a mobile search. Google is going to show you things that are close and nearby to your area that it thinks are fulfilling what you're searching for. Another important factor is the business category. And I think this is one area that a lot of people kind of overlook or don't realize how important it can be for your business listing. Ensuring that you have the most specific and accurate category for your listing plays a big part in determining your relevance, which has a direct effect on determining what kinds of searches that you're going to show up in. And then, as I said, if your business,
I was just going to ask a quick question about that. So there's some of you that are on this call that may not have already set up a Google My Business listing for your business. And in most cases there probably is already a Google My Business listing for your business, right? So what's the process, Ian, right? Do you have to claim it? Is that the first step? What is that? Talk to me. How does that work? I know how it works, but the people that are listening might not.
Sure. So in certain cases, a listing might already be present for your business. Google might have found other information on the web from other websites or your own website, Yelp, places like that, and pull that information into a listing, but it might be unclaimed. So the best way to go about that is to just search for the name of your business, maybe your address, to see if something comes up. Mm-hmm. And if there is an unclaimed listing, there's usually a button on the listing that will say, is this your business? Click here to claim it. And then once you do that, it'll ask you to provide some more information. And then you will have to prove that you are associated with the business. And this will either be through sending a postcard to the address listed on the business to verify that it's a legitimate location, or you might be able to do it over the phone or by email, which could be a little bit faster, but typically it will be with a verification postcard sent in the mail. And then once the listing is verified, you will gain full access to it, and then you can update any missing information or change anything that's incorrect and fully flesh out the profile, make it robust and fully occupied.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. So this is kind of the lifeblood of why Google is so important. Google My Business is so important for local SEO. And three main factors for how Google determines where it ranks your listing are primarily based on three factors: relevance, distance, and prominence. So the first key point is relevance, which is how well does this local listing match the criteria for what someone is searching for? You know, so how complete is this listing? How much detailed information about the business is on here? You know, the more details you can add to your listing, the better Google will be able to understand what your business does, and will be better able to serve that up to people who are looking for your type of business. The next important factor is distance. And that's pretty straightforward. It's how close is your business to the person who's doing the search, and does your business satisfy the criteria for what they're looking for, and you know, how close are they? So I'm sure that there have been examples where I'll use like a coffee shop for an example. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, but
Hey, wait yourself for a second. I'm not sure if it's coming from you. Okay, go ahead, Ian.
Okay. So yes, I'll use the coffee shop example. Let's say you just search for coffee near me. Most likely, Google is going to show you searches that it deems are relevant, so coffee shops and cafes in as close to your area as it can find. But for example, there might be a coffee shop a little bit further away, maybe, you know, on the other side of town, that Google deems is so relevant and authoritative for that search that it might show it to you over something that's closer, because that listing might have a more robust or fully fleshed out listing. They might have more reviews. Their website might be a little bit more optimized. So while proximity and distance is very important, other factors like your relevance and prominence can outweigh it. But generally, Google will try to show you the closest business or listing that fulfills the criteria for what you're looking for. And then to kind of take, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to add something in here we'll get into some more of this when we get to the end of the webinar and the tips for improving rankings. But if you look at these three things as a whole, relevance, distance, and prominence, relevance we have control of from a standpoint of making sure our business information is accurate, our categories are correct, and so forth. Distance, there's not much we can do about where our business is located. But the prominence part is where we really have the most impact. So the prominence part is what we can most affect as an agency and the business owners themselves, because it relies a lot on the reviews, the posts, your website rankings, inbound links, and so forth. So of the three of those, just keep in mind the prominence is the one that you can control the most.
And I will say that I've even had people that I've spoken with that bought buildings based on where they felt they would be like best located. So for Google My Business, like I've seen that. I've seen it, but you can't control it after the fact, right? You know, but yeah, it's crazy how Google is kind of, you know, that much of a variable in just business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would just to echo what Whit just mentioned. Exactly, prominence is related to how well known your business is, how much information Google can find about your business from other places on the website. So that's where a lot of your organic SEO efforts will come into play, your on-site and technical SEO optimization, volume and quality of reviews, local backlinks, citations, things like that. And again, as Wood said, from an SEO perspective, that is the thing you have the most control over to prove your prominence for that particular category or search. Okay, moving on. Another thing that a Google My Business listing is really helpful for, and it allows you to do, is to manage the information about your business that's online, but also to engage with potential and current customers. Google is really big on the customer experience and the user experience, and showing that you're actively engaged with your business is a very strong signal to Google. And these certain things are considered not necessarily ranking factors, but engagement factors. However, I will say that strong engagement signals can boost your rankings. So while certain things like post or Q&A, which I would consider engagement factors, don't directly affect your ranking. They can influence it. They're correlated.
Can we stop for a second and like rather than, because reviews is such an important part of this.
I was going to go into more detail on reviews.
Yeah, I just want to stop there. Okay. We could probably go on for a little bit later, but just real quickly. So now the words and phrases that people leave in the review when they post a review, from what I understand. Now, keep in mind that everything, most everybody that is in the world of Google Local or even just SEO in general, you're using your past experience with running tests and seeing the results of the test, right? And that's how we basically come up with hypothesis and educated decisions on strategy. But from my understanding, it's if somebody leaves a review for you and they say, hey, XYZ was an amazing attorney. They helped me with, my motorcycle accident case, and they got me a lot of money that I didn't think I was going to get. The keyword motorcycle accident attorney could be used as a signal within the actual algorithm. However, what Ian is probably going to talk about next is we want everybody to go in and comment and basically reply to every single review. And what you leave, you don't want to keyword stuff your comments, right? Because you can control that, because I don't think Google's using your keywords within the response within the algorithm. Is that fair point?
Yeah.
100.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say that when you talk about the statistics and the data review, in the testing they've done in reviews, they have shown that reviews that contain keywords end up ranking the Google My Business higher than those that don't. Now, it's kind of a fine line because it's hard to instruct the client to say, when I hired my Dallas personal injury attorney to do my case, it doesn't sound as natural. But yeah, using the keywords in there has proven through testing to give some sort of a bump. Not sure exactly how big of a bump it would give it, but it is definitely a good signal to let Google know what they are talking about, where you're located, and so forth.
Yeah, and I think Jason just confirmed, who is a subject matter expert, that review replies have zero ranking factor, right? You should reply to all reviews, but they're not. The words and phrases they use won't really matter.
Yeah, I would say the replies are more for if you have a bad review and you're basically letting other customers know kind of your side of it. So that everybody expected to have a bad review, but if you can say, hey, you never were a customer and I've never. We couldn't find you. Anything that kind of makes it make sense, I think, is going to lessen the damage of a negative review to a potential consumer.
Got it. Yep.
Cool. 100%. So, just to continue where I left off, Google My Business allows you to engage with customers, and that can be through several ways. Reviews, which we just mentioned, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about all of these in the following slides. But reviews. Direct feedback from your customers, both positive and negative. You should never ignore it. They're actively telling you what you're doing great or things that you can improve on. And that's direct feedback that you can use to improve your business. Posts are a great way to communicate and share updates directly with your customer base. And it's also another opportunity to generate more clicks back to your website or phone calls.
Can you explain what posts are, Ian?
Sure. It's posts. Just like it sounds, you can just post a short update about your business. You can include a photo and a link to your website or some other, like your social media, for example, or you can use a phone call, click the call button. And you can do all different kinds of posts. You can do an event if you have an event coming up or an event you want to promote. You can use things like blog posts, announcements from your business. If you have like an employee of the month. They're especially helpful for like restaurants and hotels. If you have new specials or new menu items, or you renovated the rooms in your hotels, you can use posts to show that off to customers, things of that nature. And then especially during the pandemic and COVID, Google added a few features to posts that were directly related to COVID status updates. And those have featured visibility. They stayed up longer than the traditional posts, which do expire after 7 days. So that's just a great way to directly communicate and share updates with your customers. You can kind of think of it as an extension of your social media, but just on Google's platform.
So these are things. Go ahead, Ian. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think we're going to get into some more of this as the slides to come. But as far as also with the posting, it is a good opportunity too to boost your SEO presence. The Google posts are another opportunity to include your name, address, and phone number of a business to get that citation, and also to use keywords within your post to make it more relevant. So you can use the post for information, but it also does serves a purpose in giving you a ranking bump in GMB as well.
Yeah, and all of this is done within your Google My Business dashboard. If you're not familiar with these posts and where you can respond to reviews and QA, it's all done there. So thanks, Ian.
Yep. Next is photos. Photos are having a healthy portfolio of up-to-date and current photos and a steady stream of new photos updated, depending on the business, every few months to at least once a year. For certain businesses, like I said, hotels, restaurants, you would want to update that more regularly. But it's just a great way to show potential customers what they can expect to see when they see your business. And a steady stream of photos is a good signal to Google that you are actively engaged with your business. Another engagement factor, as I mentioned. But also, photos can be a really helpful tool in the face of any kind of suspensions or anything like that, because it's actual hard physical proof that my business is located where we say it is. There's signs and signage that show our physical location. So they're also really helpful in that regard to help safeguard against any kind of potential suspension. And then lastly is a Q&A section. On the business profile and the search engine results page, there's a feature where anyone can ask a question and receive an answer from the business or other Google users. So that's another great way to directly interact with customers and potential customers. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that as well in an upcoming slide.
Great.
So now we're getting into how to best utilize Google My Business for your business. The first most important factor is to optimize, update, and maintain a listing. And what I mean by that is to make sure that you have the most accurate and up-to-date information, and that if anything changes or is updated, you make sure that you follow up and update that on Google My Business as well. So the first thing is you want to make sure that you have the correct NAP information on your listing. And what I mean by that is the name, address, and phone number. That core information is like the lifeblood of local SEO. Name, address, and phone number. It's one of the most important things, the most important information that you can put on your listing. So for example, if you change the name of your business, or you move to a new building, or you get a different phone number, you want to make sure that you update that information on your listing as soon as possible, as well as on your website and other places where you have a presence online. But whenever you make any kind of changes like that, Google My Business should be one of the first places you update. Next is, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but make sure you have the most accurate category for your business. For example, a lot of times I'll see somebody will have their category on Google My Business just listed as lawyer or law firm, when in actuality, personal injury attorney, which is a little more specific and is a little bit more directly related to the kind of law they practice, would be more appropriate for that listing. So there's things like that. Some categories might only have one or two generic options, but especially for legal categories and law firms, there are a lot of different options because there's so many different practices of law. So you want to make sure you have the most accurate category that's related to your business. Next is confirming that the links on your Google My Business are linking to the correct pages. There are no broken links. They're not getting redirected. They're secure links. You can have a link to your website, and then also an appointment link or a contact link if somebody wants to schedule a consultation or make an appointment to come and visit your office. You want to make sure those links are fully optimized and correct. And then your hours of operation. That's another very important thing to make sure is always up to date and accurate, because you want customers to be able to have confidence that the hours listed on your listing are accurate. If they call your office or want to come in for a visit, that somebody will be there and that you'll be open. That includes things like making sure your holiday hours are up to date and accurate. Are you going to be open on Labor Day? Are you going to be closed? Things like that. Again, it's all about the customer experience and the searcher experience to give them confidence that the information on here is going to be up to date and accurate. Other things you can do to utilize Google My Business are creating short name or review links. The short link that you can send to a customer that will take them directly to the review page on your listing, so they can just with one click leave a review directly on your listing. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And then lastly, there's products and services, which you can use to fill out and show things like your practice areas or the products that you sell at your business. And this is another great opportunity to just get a few more keywords on your listing and give Google more of an idea of what you're doing at your business and what kind of services or products you're providing to your customer base. And there's also an opportunity there to add links back to your website as well. So that's another very useful feature. So, reviews. We're going to drill down into some of these features a little bit more now. Reviews are very important in the sense that they're social proof that you're providing a good customer experience, and it communicates trust and authority to Google. If you have a steady stream of positive reviews coming in, that's a good signal to Google that this business is fulfilling customer intent, they're authoritative and relevant for this subject, and that can in effect help boost your rankings. Now, one thing that I see a lot of businesses neglect to do is they will only respond to negative reviews in a sense to defend themselves, but in reality, you should be responding to all reviews, both positive and negative. Because somebody, took time out of their day to go out of their way to leave you a really positive glowing review, saying that, you're the best lawyer they've ever worked with or the best burrito they've ever had. You want to acknowledge that person, thank them, and that shows to other people who are contemplating leaving a review, oh, this person checks the reviews, they're engaged with their customers, they're really invested in making sure their business is successful. That is just a strong signal to another person, oh, maybe I won't trust this business a little bit more, they seem like really on top of it. And then in terms of negative reviews, obviously you want to respond to those as well, but the way that you should go about doing that is to try and de-escalate the situation, acknowledge the person's grievance, and then provide an opportunity for contact offline to resolve the issue. And and again, it's kind of the same thing with positive reviews. Customers will see that, okay, wow, there was a negative review here. They took the challenge head on. They engaged with the customer. They're trying to right this wrong. And who knows, if you have that, even that little experience or interaction with the customer might influence them to leave a follow-up review. I had an issue, but I got in contact with the business owner. We're able to resolve it. I was really impressed with that level of customer service. Things like that.
Yeah, I would say Google My Business is not the place as a business owner to kind of vent after you get a negative review. It's not a good thing
Definitely
to do.
not.
And
you definitely want to try and remove it off the platform and take it offline to resolve it, not in a public forum like that.
Yeah.
But you always want to acknowledge that person's experience. And then the last point is, as I was saying, a steady stream of positive reviews or new reviews to signal to Google that your company is trustworthy, and it can affect your local rankings. So reviews are definitely an important aspect that should not be ignored or overlooked. Moving on, GMB posts. As we mentioned earlier, there's a few varieties of posts that you can use. You can do event posts, just kind of a general status update, and during the pandemic there were COVID status update posts that had featured placement. But they're a great way to provide direct updates to your customers, highlight new services, events, promotions, and generate clicks back to specific pages on your website that you're trying to promote. And as Whit and Jason mentioned earlier, it's also an opportunity to get some keywords in there that can help with ranking.
And these have a 7-day shelf life?
Yes, standard posts will have, they'll be featured on the SERPs page for 7 days. And then after that, they expire in the sense that they will no longer be shown on the SERPs, but if you click through to see previous posts, they'll still be there. There are some exceptions to that. Event posts, where you set, a start and end date, the post will stay up until the end of the event. And then for the COVID status update post, those stay up until you post another one or you take it down.
So question
So
that
those have
come
been
up,
really,
a question that just come up, it says, should post be a content marketing strategy? I think it's really the repurpose of your content strategy.
exactly. I would kind of think about it in the ways of like leftovers from a turkey dinner. You know, the content on your website was this beautiful turkey dinner. Now we have a little bit left over. We can make some turkey sandwiches with some Google My Business posts. I think is a good way to think about it, to repurpose that content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Next, Q&A feature. This is pretty straightforward, but Google allows people to ask questions on a business listing, and anyone can come in and answer those. So while on the face of it, that might sound very helpful, but it can actually be kind of dangerous because anybody can come in and answer these questions. And oftentimes some people might just give incorrect or unhelpful information. So a way that we like to be proactive and get ahead of that is to seed that section with our own questions and approved answers. So that way, if anybody else, if another user comes in to see those, their question might already be asked and answered. And then they'll have the official approved answer from the business themselves. So that way they know that they're getting the correct or direct answer from the business. And this is another great way that you can maintain control of the information that is about your business online.
Yeah, one point here, just stopping point. So a lot of times you will see, businesses that have a lot of pre-populated questions already for a business because you might not even known that this existed, right? Well, unlike reviews, you do have some control here where you could remove certain questions that aren't necessarily relevant and pre-populate your own questions and even your own answers here. And I would probably encourage you to do that. Take the top 15 questions that people ask your business and pre-populate this with the question and the answer.
Yeah, great point, Jason. Okay. And then next, photos. As I said before, Google is very strong on the customer experience. New and relevant photos are, again, a great signal to Google and other potential customers that you're actively engaged with your business. Think about it this way. If you search for a business and you look at their listing and you go and look at the photos because you're interested to see what the business looks like or to see, some of the dishes or the rooms or anything like that, and the most recent photos from 5 years ago, that would give me some pause as a user. You think, okay, this hasn't been updated in a while. I wonder, why is that? Or does the restaurant or business or still look like this? You just always want to make sure that you're representing your business in the most professional and accurate way possible. And for most businesses, it's recommended to have at least 3 or 4 of the following types of photos. The interior of the business, the exterior of the business that shows any kind of signage or branding, exterior of the building, and then some photos of the staff or the team members, people that work there. And you don't have to necessarily go and hire a professional photographer to do a full-on photo shoot. Just a clear, well-lit, and in-focus photo from a smartphone can be very effective. It's just a matter of making sure that you're representing and presenting your business in the best light for potential customers.
So 2 things here. It's really fascinating how far Google technology has come, right? They actually have a tool called Vision AI, and it's a tool, you can Google it. You basically can upload a photo, right? And Google, you'll be amazed at how much data and insights that Google can actually show you based on a photo. I'm talking about, if there's a photo of a business card and it says personal injury lawyers, Google will extract the data and understand what it actually reads from the photo. It'll also talk about confidence level. There was experiments done where you had a guitar shop, right? And so they didn't have any photos. And so when you upload a photo of maybe some of their students playing the guitar, now you'll see that when you do a Google search for guitar lessons in Los Angeles, Google's actually pre-populating photos from your photo gallery on Google My Business that show guitars, because it's showing confidence level. It's hey, there's a 90% confidence level that there's somebody in this photo that's playing a guitar. It's a string instrument. They're smiling. They're wearing a hat. It's really mind-blowing. And so that's a very important aspect of this, is to upload photos. And then there was a question that says we've sent Google trusted photographers, which is basically a Google certified photographer to come out and do a virtual tour, panoramic photos, which is definitely something I would highly encourage if you have a brick and mortar business to go out and do and get that, because it is one of the best citations that you can actually get. Somebody that's
100%.
a Google My Business certified photographer come out to your office, and then they have the ability to stitch that up into your Google My Business listing. But he said that they've sent people out to do this and they were still suspended. Well, I don't think we're saying that, by just doing photos that we're ever gonna that's gonna be the end all, get you out of suspension mode. But it's one of those things that if you do have signage of your business outside the building and interior within the lobby, and some of those photos, it's just something that if you do get tripped up in a suspension, because as you file a reconsideration request, it's just more proof that, hey, you are in this building.
Evidence.
They're going to ask you for that anyway, right? We all know that. Like in Google My Business, when you get suspended, they're going to ask you to, submit proof. Maybe even do a video walkthrough. So.
Yeah, all excellent points. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So, Google My Business Insights. Within the Google My Business dashboard, there are insights that can show you, the customer actions and things how people are interacting with your listing. So obviously you can see the volume of reviews that are coming in, number of phone calls, website visits, who's requesting driving directions, how many times your listing was viewed on search or maps, what day of the week you get the most phone calls. All this kind of information that can help you inform your local strategy and things that you can do to measure the success of some of your efforts to track your local. And then lastly, moving on to 5 key tips that we have here to help improve your GMB ranking. Whit, did you want to jump in here?
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Well, it looks like some of this we've kind of touched on a little bit to get to this point, but I'll try to pound in a little bit more some of the finer details. And if I can answer some of the questions from our chat in the process, then I'll try to do that as well. So what I want to look at is, now that we understand how to use the Google My Business, what it does, how to implement your information and those things, what people are really interested in is, now that I have this, how do I get this visibility in Google that it brings to me? So here's 5 things that you can do that are going to help you move up the rankings as far as your Google My Business is concerned. One thing is local listings. It's important to provide a consistent name, address, and phone number. In the industry, you call that the NAP, in business information. Some of these directories are great for client and customer acquisition, and others are great for providing a citation authority that results in the overall linking boost. When we talk of local listings, we're talking about Yelp, Bing, InfoSpace, City Search, Yellow Pages, Hot Frog, and the list goes on. There's about 35 citations that are super important, but having your business listed consistently in all of these that matches your Google My Business information will do a great deal to proving to Google that you are who you are where you say you are, and continue to build that trust and relevance. Number 2 is customer reviews. We've touched on that a little bit. And what the data has shown us that GMB profiles that have less time between reviews have shown to rank higher. So basically what that's telling you is the more reviews, the better. And to throw in a nugget that we learned earlier, if your customers are able to weave in keywords, or you can posture it that way, that would also be a way to bolster those reviews for a ranking increase. Third is the Google My Business post. Same as the reviews, we've seen through the data that profiles with less time between posts have shown to rank higher. So although it's probably not the biggest ranking signal, it is important to do. It keeps your profile up to date. And that's another thing that we're trying to do, is make sure that Google has all the information, all the opportunities they've given us to provide customers information. We've taken advantage of it. So once again, it does give you an opportunity to use keywords in your posts to bolster your local keyword presence. But most importantly, you're doing it just to keep the timing up and make sure that there's a fresh one there every week. As we move on to the fourth one, website optimization, this is one where a lot of you guys that currently work with an agency or you have someone currently optimizing your website will have a big advantage. And the reason is that we've seen that the authority of the website linked to the Google My Business listing is very impactful. So sites that have higher site authority, more backlinks, are going to overall rank better in the Google 3-pack than ones that don't have the authority. In the past, it used to be that Google My Business was more of a separate entity than the website, and it still is to some capacity. But we're seeing now that the strength of your website is impacting and affecting the rankings of your Google My Business listing. So if you do have an opportunity to work towards strengthening your website, that's also going to pay dividends in the map listing as well.
And just one point there before you go on
yeah.
number 4. So just the content on your website, right? You know, like if somebody's doing a search for dog bite lawyer, right? You know, well, if you have a page that's optimized on your website for dog bite lawyer, right? Google sees that. And so it'll say this is showing here because it mentions dog bite lawyer on their website, right? So it's also taking into consideration the actual content and the semantics of, you know, what people are searching.
The website that you're linking to. Yeah, I've seen that come up in maps all the time. You know, it'll say this listing's website mentioned, you know, whatever keyword you search for, and that's why it's being shown in this map list. So yeah, that's definitely a correlation there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great point. It also shows you too that Google is getting information from the website and posting it there. So they are using that information on the website to bolster it. And you know, as far as your profile optimization, one other thing that we've seen as far as data and research is that listings that have at least 20 unique images, have the proper categories, appointment links, they seem to rank higher as well. So if you are someone that maybe only has a couple pictures, shoot to try to get 20 of them. I know there was a question over here on the side a minute ago about what do you do if you have a remote business? What do you do for pictures? And I would say as far as those pictures, just pick the ones that you think are going to build the most trust with the consumer. So if you don't have a physical location and to build a trust that way, there's really nothing Google's looking for as a particular picture to rank you higher. So I would just go for the ones that represent your business the best and the ones that are going to build the most trust. But if you do these 5 things, you will definitely see, or you should see, an increase in your Google My Business rankings in the search.
Yeah, these are all great tips. Okay, so is that the conclusion of the slides?
Yeah, so that is the conclusion of the presentation. And now we can move it over to the question and answer portion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. What a great presentation. So we have about 13 minutes left for Q&A. I'm going to go, first question is from Kathy. She says that, you know, sometimes when she logs into GMB, she might notice that her phone number was crossed out and, you know, maybe, you know, the address looks a little different. And so why will Google publish these changes without, you know, them accepting them? You know, and I think I'll let you guys comment, but my thoughts are, A, there's a trusted citation that might be out there that has inaccurate information, right? So for instance, if you're a lawyer and your Avvo listing, which is a very strong site, you know, in the terms of like authority and relevancy for lawyers, right? If it has like an old phone number, right, Google might be saying, it's really strange. And so they might be kind of pre-populating that based on just some of the different aggregators that Google sees. So that's one reason. The other reason is, you know, there could be somebody that's a Google guide that might be like a level like 8 that goes in and maybe makes an edit like that, right? There's people that have different influence and power. And so forth. It's like Wikipedia, right? You know, like you could write something on Wikipedia and then it just gets removed. It's because people have more power than you do, even with your own company in some cases. And sometimes people use that negative, like they use that, you know, in a negative light, right? I've seen people with power that kind of do things negative. But, you know, I think those are, you know, some of the reasons. But Ian, what other, you know, reasons? Why do you see that stuff?
I mean, I think you kind of already answered the question pretty well. I mean, everything past that, it just tells me a lot of this stuff's out of our hands. Google ultimately has their hand on the joystick, and they're pulling the trigger. And I think that the information that you provided gives some good evidence to why they would think it might have changed.
But it's also one of the reasons why you should be monitoring this, like literally
Exactly.
on a daily basis,
Yeah.
logging in, looking at your reviews, posting images, adding Google posts, right? The more active that you are with this, like the more successful that you be. You want to leverage every piece of insight or tool that Google My Business gives you.
For sure. And I think that if it's something that you don't have the time to do, it's something of super importance that you would want to task somebody with managing, because keeping your Google My Business profile up to date has a huge hand in traffic, visibility, trust, all the things that we've discussed. So I mean, if I'm a local business owner, I'm making sure that that profile is complete. I'm making sure that there's plenty of reviews and it represents my business well.
Yes. All right, let's see here. Other questions. All right, we covered a couple of these already. So my profile is getting spammed with bad reviews from people I've never served. Can I hide or delete bad or fake reviews?
Okay, so getting reviews removed on Google, unfortunately, is kind of a tall task. Because, as I mentioned, Google is very into user-generated content and the user experience. So they, more times than not, will likely take the side of the person leaving the review. However, you can flag reviews, and in some instances, you are able to get negative or fake reviews removed. You do have to provide some level of proof or provide some kind of assurance to Google that this is actually a fake review. You're not just trying to get a review you didn't like taken down. Because you have to think about it from Google's perspective. If you could just go in and delete any review you didn't like, that's pretty disingenuous, and that's not presenting an accurate or true portrayal of your business. If there are operational issues that customers are highlighting and you're trying to sweep them under the rug, that's not so great. But there is recourse through Google My Business support, especially the social support. That's where I've had the most success. Submitting, clearly fake or irrelevant reviews with some kind of support to back that up. So, for example, if user John Smith left a really horrible review and there's no record of this person ever coming to my business, and clearly this is fake, one way you can try to provide that proof for Google is to click through to this person's Google profile. Is this the only review they've left? Are they only leaving, harsh, negative, fake reviews on certain types of businesses? Are they leaving reviews, in multiple states and multiple businesses on the same day? Things like that can kind of be like, maybe this profile isn't so accurate. Okay, as Jason mentioned, social support is actually still offline right now due to the pandemic. I think Google is still operating with a reduced support staff. So, as of right now, I guess the best recourse will probably just be to collect that evidence and flag the review. And then once social support opens back up, then maybe try submitting. But Whit, did you have anything to add?
I was just going to say that from a business owner perspective, just make sure that you reply to them, because I think if you put yourself in the consumer driver's seat, we all expect at some point a business will have a bad review. And we all know there's some bad eggs out there that will only go leave a bad review. They wouldn't leave a good review. So if you get a bad review, it's not the end of the world, especially if you can respond to it well. If there is an opportunity to flag it and make it spam, that will be great. But as long as it meets Google guidelines, it's very hard to get it removed. So, I would just play on the side of replying and trying to resolve it that way with potential consumers. Definitely don't want to go dirty, though. That'd be the last input in there, is you don't want to use this as a platform at all to get in the dirt or weeds with clients. You just want to make it as friendly as possible and keep it moving and to move it off of that platform.
And believe it or not, one of the best ways to kind of get through to Google is publicly on Twitter, right? You can actually tweet. They have Google My Biz, at Google My Biz. And so, they encourage you to ask questions and pose problems. And I've seen people kind of solve some of their Google My business listings, with, some of their issues just with Twitter. But, as Jason just mentioned, he said, just be polite and professional, right? Yeah, don't kind of expect them to take action. But, and it is a public forum, right? So now you're exposing your personal problems publicly, but sometimes that's the only way to go that route. All right. So how can you? Because I know back in the day, right, your NAP was so important, right? And they only gave you one phone number that you can actually put for your name, address, and phone number on Google My Business. But now there's better ways that you can actually track the phone calls and attribute phone calls to Google My Business?
Yes, so Google now allows you to add 3 phone numbers to your listing. And so what we do and what we would recommend if you want to track your phone calls is in the primary slot for a phone number, which is the one that is going to be shown public facing, you would put your tracking number there. And then in one of the secondary slots where you can add an additional phone number, you would put your true local number for NAP consistency. Because even though that number is not public facing, Google can still see that number that's associated with your GMB listing. So when it's, scanning the web for other instances of your business, it'll see that, the phone number on this listing, even though it's a secondary number, it matches, on the website and their Yelp profile and their Avo profile, their Facebook page, things like that. So tracking number in the primary spot, because that's the number that when somebody clicks on the listing, that's the number that it will call, that's the number that will be displayed. But your actual true local number that you want to have for NAP consistency, you can put that in the secondary number slot, and Google will still be able to see that and associate it with your business.
Yeah. One last thing before we wrap up, Google is also seeing a lot of indirect signals, right? It's like sometimes you might see like a very large branded company rank or a very popular restaurant start to rank a little bit higher than, like a small little Chinese restaurant down the block, whatever, right? And it's because of, I think, all of the indirect signals that Google is monitoring and may or may not be using as variables in the actual local algorithm. Like, what am I talking about, right? So how many times people click phone number, how many times people click make reservation, how many times people click get driving directions, right? A lot of those are indirect signals that Google is getting, right, from users, right?
For sure.
And they're able to even track IP address of the phone and where they're going and if they actually come to your office, right? Now nobody would ever come out and publicly say that those are direct signals, but those are all indirect signals, right? So, if you've got a law firm that does a ton of TV advertising and billboards and stuff like that, and there's a lot more search volume for their name, those are also signals, to why, you might see some of the bigger companies or more popular restaurants ranking a little bit higher, within Google Maps. Even though that your NAP profile is correct, you're following all the instructions that we just talked about on this call, right? Those are true signals, right? Based on the popularity of a certain business. Do you guys agree with that?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, even
100%.
things like the number of times that your Google My Business map is embedded in various blog posts or articles or websites is another signal. So a lot of the things that you talked about are super important, but there are also a lot of things that, like from an agency standpoint or a business, you don't have a lot of control over, right? And in the restaurant thing, I think more people are looking for directions to a restaurant than, say, an attorney's office. So I think those things will be a lot stronger in different industries than others.
Great.
The signals, yeah.
Yeah, I just want people to know that sometimes there's things that are outside of your control. Even if you're doing everything right and you're wondering, how come I just can't get past this one guy, right? Or this one girl, right? It is some of the other signals that you might not even be thinking about too. Well, listen, Whit, Ian, this was awesome. We're ending right on time, which I love to do. If you have further questions, you could always reach out to us at Hennessey.com, HENNESSEY.com. If you forget the E, you'll be buying some alcohol, and that might not be a bad thing. That's okay. If you have questions specifically related to Google My Business with your business, there's a couple different avenues that you can take. We talked about Twitter, we talked about support, but I think the biggest thing that you can do right now is go to the actual forum. So Google My Business Help, if you just do that search, or the Google My Business Help community, that's where you can go and pose specific issues that you're facing, and you can get a lot of really good impact, input and feedback from some people that are really high level with this Google My Business stuff. So one other question that came up is, was this recorded? And the answer is yes. This webinar was recorded. We will be pre-populating it on our YouTube channel probably in the next couple days. But again, you have invested an hour with us. We thank you very much for your time. We'll be doing our next webinar in 30 days. Topic to be determined, but we'll let you know. You're on our email list, and we'll get that out to you. But again, thank you so much, Whit. Thank you, Ian, and everybody.
No
you guys
problem.
have a wonderful rest of your week.